Good morning students, I welcome you all for today's online economics class, and today we will continue with the chapter 3rd. Title of the chapter 3rd is Poverty is Challenge, and today we will discuss the three subtopics of the present chapter, that is poverty line, poverty estimates and vulnerable groups. Now I will give you the explanation of all these components. Firstly, I will give you the concept of poverty line. Poverty line is the level of income to meet the minimum level living conditions. Poverty line differs from one country to another depending upon the area of poverty. Okay. Then poverty line differs from one country to another depends upon the area of poverty. That means poverty line changes from one country to another. In developed countries where there is advanced standard of living and welfare concepts, poverty line is high as basic standard to live include higher consumptions, requirements and accessibility to many goods and services. On the other hand, in many less developed countries, the basic requirement will be low and contains mostly essential consumption items needed to sustain life, like as in India. Then poverty line in India. India is having a well-designed poverty measurement mechanism under the erstwhile Planning Commission. The Planning Commission was the nodal agency for estimation of poverty. For setting poverty line and methodology of constructing it, the Planning Commission appointed expert groups from time to time. For example, Raghurajan Committee is the latest among these expert groups. Traditionally, the Planning Commission estimates the number of people below poverty line in states as well as in rural and urban areas, based upon the prevailing poverty estimate methodology submitted by the experts. But lastly, we say the whole work is done by NSSO, National Sample Survey Organization. There are some methodology for constructing the line, which is mentioned here. All of you will go through with this. The concept about minimum consumption standards and consumption level were changed based upon recommendations of the various expert groups task force. The expert group uses by NSSO, National Sample Survey Organization. Then timeline for poverty estimation in India. The first poverty line was created in India by the erstwhile Planning Commission in the mid of 1970s. It was based on the minimum daily requirement of 2400 and 2100 calories. 2400 calories for rural areas and 2100 for urban areas. Why there is difference, I have discussed. I have given you the concept regarding this in my audio number 2nd of today's lecture. Now there are another part, that is what is meant by vulnerable groups. Vulnerable groups simply means the groups of people who could easily be harmed physically, mentally or emotionally. According to World Bank, on the one that has some specific characteristics that makes it a higher risk of falling into poverty than others are said to be the vulnerable groups. Or as far as vulnerable groups in India is concerned, it mainly occurs the class of population deprived from adequate livelihood. The main sociable groups are scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, rural labor households and casual households in urban areas. Vulnerable groups are those groups of people who lack of development opportunities due to their disadvantageous position, who may find it difficult to lead a comfortable life and many times find difficult to exercise their human rights. There are some important characteristics of all these vulnerable groups. Firstly, it suffers from the discrimination and subordination. They have physical or any cultural traits that set them apart and which are disapproved by a dominant group. Third is they share a sense of collective identity and common burdens. Number 5 is they have shared social rules about who belong and who does not. Once again, in India, vulnerable social groups are classified as social groups and economic groups. In social groups, we are seeing two classes are there: scheduled castes and scheduled tribes are there. And in economic groups, there are rural labor households, and in urban areas, there are urban casual workers. These are the 4 most vulnerable groups which are present in India. Okay, thank you for today's lecture.